Hello guys, and welcome to the first episode of my, hopefully, series of BFDIA What Ifs. Let's start with a simple introduction to how it's all gonna look. The outer region shows all the people still in BFDIA. When there are teams, this region will be subdivided to show the difference between the teams. The region directly in the center, the circle one, will show the eliminated contestants prior to the hiatus, the ones in the LOL. The region between them will show the post-hiatus eliminated contestants. The region in the left, as you can see, shows all the text as I explain what happens in each episode. The region on the right will often include images of what I'm talking about. So let's get into this scenario. As we all know, in BFDIA, the cast was the top 20 voted contestants that were present after BFDI, plus 2 decided contestants by special people. In this what-if scenario, the top 30 contestants would be allowed in. However, TV would not be allowed to be a contestant because he's already the host, thus Snowball replaces him. As a result, here is our new cast. To clarify, the added contestants were Penn, Blocky, David, Eraser, Snowball, Fiery Jr., Black Hole, Taco, Fanny, and 8-Ball. With this new cast, we can finally start the battle for BFDIA. Just as in the original timeline, Tennis Ball suggests for one team to have the newbies and one team to have the original contestants. However, there is exactly a 2-contestant difference between the original contestants and the newbies in the original contestants' favor, so Donut objects to this. After some team switching, the majority of the cast switches the OG team. This is except for Donut, Coiny, Pin, Fanny, and Dave. The challenge would be a tug of war, and due to the original contestants team having so many contestants, the newbies team would be up for elimination. The newbies team would then be named to Woebunch. This is how the cake at stakes will look. When a contestant disappears, they are safe. But first, Coiny still pretty easily wins the prize. Fanny and David, the added contestants, are both more hated than him. His prize is Yo-Yo Seeds, as always. Now let's get to the elimination. Safe are Coiny, Pin, Donut, Fanny. I think it's pretty obvious that David would leave here. It's just like Dora's elimination. Pin would suggest to bring Teardrop onto Woebunch now that David has been eliminated, but Donut would refuse this because Teardrop doesn't want. However, there would still be team switching, as a new team called Death Pact is formed by Black Hole, just like the one in BFB. The contestants on this new team would be Teardrop, Taco, Black Hole, and Bonnie. The next challenge would be to make Yo-Yo Stew. Woebunch would make their Yo-Yo Stew out of Coiny's Yo-Yo Seeds that he won from the cake at stake. Death Pact would use Black Hole to go get Yo-Yo Berries from Yo-Yo Land, and No Name would get Yo-Yo Berries from Yo-Yo Land as well, but since they have so many contestants, their Yo-Yo Stew would be convoluted and thus they would be up for elimination. Puffball would still win the prize as in our timeline, and she gets her own personal speaker box. Now, there's so many contestants up for elimination here that I'm not going to go through the time to go one by one, so I'll just say it now. Dora is eliminated. The next challenge would be to kill some bugs. No Name would not have Bombi this time, but I'm confident that Golf Ball and Tennis Ball would figure out some way to kill the bugs. As for Death Pact, they would not want to kill the bugs, but Black Hole would probably accidentally suck some of them up. Meanwhile, Woebunch, they would have no way to kill the bugs even if they wanted to, and all their people would be poisoned, so they would be up for elimination. This time, the contestant who usually wins the prize here, Teardrop, is not on this team, so we're gonna have to extrapolate a little. I think Pin would be the one who wins the prize here. She's the least mean out of everyone on this team. As for the elimination, the people who are safe are Pin, Coiny, Fanny. It would be a close vote between Donut and Fanny, but since Donut was holding his team back in terms of population size, and Fanny wasn't even that relevant, I think Donut would be eliminated here. Due to no longer being restricted by Donut, Woebunch would invite Fiery Jr., Yellowface, and Needle onto their team. The challenge would be to create a new Dream Island since the last one was stolen by Leafy. Woebunch would make a Dream Island that's just a farm randomly. And No Name would try to make a Dream Island out of Golf Ball's Dream Island sauce. But Death Pact would sabotage this because Book is in the vat of Dream Island sauce, and so No Name would not have any Dream Island, and Death Pact would just kind of use Black Hole to bring a piece of the Earth up, making it like an air island with nothing on it. So No Name would be up for elimination again. Puffball would win the prize again, just like always, and her prize would be to remove Pin's limbs. Safe are, well, everyone who was originally safe in our timeline at first. And then Pen, 8-Ball, Blocky, Eraser, and Match. I know that Match was really hated at this time, and this would be very close, but considering that Snowball is the least funny of the Bros characters, who are already mean, and he's only in the show because Phoebe was disqualified, I think he would be eliminated here. In BFDIA 5, a lot of team switching would happen. First, Wobunch would invite Nickel and Spongy onto their team. This would cause Golfball to become in a rage about Wobunch stealing their team members, which would make him try to make everyone on No Name promise that they wouldn't switch. This would cause all of the Free Smart Alliance, Match, Pencil, Ice Cube, Book, and Ruby to leave and form their own team called Free Smart. All of these failures would culminate in 8-Ball asserting himself as the new team leader of No Name, which Golfball would utterly reject. This would divide No Name into two sides, with Tennis Ball, Gelatin, Fiery, Rocky, all being on Golfball's side, while Pen, Blocky, Eraser, and Fries are on 8-Ball's side. Both are still on No Name because they believe themselves to be the true No Namers, but they hate each other. The challenge would be to reach the peak of Yo-Yo Mountain. Deathpack would be the first safe because they could just use Balco's gravity to launch themselves up to the peak. The other teams would have a lot of trouble, but eventually Free Smart would be the next safe. The two factions of No Name would reluctantly put their differences aside and all decide to ride Puffball. However, because Puffball wins the prize every time she's up for elimination, she would sabotage No Name and cause them to be up for elimination. Before we continue, I'd like to talk about the other parts of the timeline's effect on this post-hiatus. Basically, I'm going to assume that the rest of BFDIA, so BFB and Teapot, are all going to be the exact same as they are in our timeline, even though they're guaranteed to be different because of these changes. I know, it's unrealistic, but that's just how it's going to happen. Puffball would not win the prize this time, and instead it would be Fiery, and his prize is a defense against meteors, which would basically just defend him from Puffball trying to stop him from spinning the prize wheel. I could elaborate on this elimination, but I think it's pretty obvious. Puffball still gets eliminated. Rocky would switch to Wobunch. The challenge would be to get all the team members of each team asleep at once. Needle would use Yellowface's special headphones on two of the other teams since there were only two pairs of headphones. She would choose Free Smart and Deathpact because No Name already has enough problems that would stop them from sleeping. Needle would put these special headphones on Ice Cube and Black Hole. However, Black Hole would just suck up the headphones, making the headphones on Deathpact useless. Because Deathpact had no internal problems and no headphone problems, they would be the first to get all of their team members asleep and be safe. No Name would go into a hotel with Evil Leaf inside of it, so they would get chased through multiple rooms, almost all being killed. However, Wobunch and Free Smart would get into a heated argument, in which Wobunch would tell Free Smart scary stories, including ones about Evil Leafy. This would cause Evil Leafy to become summoned between them. Without the threat of Evil Leafy, No Name would be able to be the second safe, even with their arguing between themselves. Just as in our timeline, between Free Smart and Wobunch, Wobunch is up for elimination as Free Smart is able to go to sleep earlier. Sorry, Nickel and Spongy, as I included you in No Name's previous elimination. Because Bombi isn't on this team this time, Pin, the one who got the second most likes in our timeline, wins the prize and turns purple. Safe are Nickel, Coiny, Pin, Needle, Yellowface, Spongy, Fanny, Rocky. I debated whether it would be Rocky or Fiery Jr. leaving here, but I think that Fiery Jr. is so overhated that they would have eliminated him instead. Ruby would have a piece of Yoyolite, a very rare gem in the BFDIA universe, which would cause Tennis Ball to send Fiery and Gelatin to Free Smart. The challenge would be to make a new elimination place. However, due to Free Smart being in the air while the challenge was announced, they would be up for elimination due to Gelatin and Fiery sabotaging them. This is just the same cake and steak as in our timeline, except there's an added contestant that isn't as hated as Fiery here, so I'll just keep it short. Ruby still wins the prize, which is the time travel to 10 seconds ago and be reassembled, and Fiery is eliminated. The 8th challenge would be to paint the Eiffel Tower. Each team would be assigned a unique color, with Woe Bunches being purple. Gelatin would use special glasses on the puffball speaker box in order to make the tower appear that have no purple at all. Thus, Woe Bunch is up for elimination. Coiny would be the one that wins the prize here, and he would usually get to swap 2 vocal cards between your team members' prize. However, since he is not in the cake at stake this time, due to the events of the previous episode, his prize would instead be substituted just to return to Earth. It's obvious that the elimination would be between Rocky and Yellowface. However, Yellowface was so hated, even getting more than double the votes of the second most voted contestant in this elimination, that he would be out here. During the previous challenge, Gelatin got the Yoyolite into his backyard, so he would return to No Name. He would also persuade Rocky to return to No Name as well. The challenge would be charades and trash compactors. If you can't catch the charade, then the teammate in the trash compactor is killed. The first team to get all their contestants killed is up for elimination. No Name usually lost here, but since they have so many contestants, they would be safe. Instead, Death Pact would ironically be up for elimination, because Black Hole would suck up the trash compactor and that would disqualify their team. I think the prize votes would be very close between Teardrop and Bommy, but considering that Bommy got the prize so consistently throughout BFDIA, especially over the most well-loved characters, I think he would win the prize here, and he would get a swap token. Anyways, so far, Bommy, Teardrop, Taco. It would be very close, as all of these are very loved contestants. However, Black Hole caused his team to lose the challenge, so I think he would be eliminated. In BFDIA 10, Ice Cube would make a beautiful face that would cause the entire cast except for Golf Ball and Fries to join Free Smart, calling it the Beautiful Face Devotion Institute. However, Bommy would use his swap token on Golf Ball, meaning that the two teams are the Beautiful Face Devotion Institute and Fries. After some brain rot filler and Fries kidnapping Bommy later, the Beautiful Face Devotion Institute is up for elimination. Due to being the main character of this team, Ice Cube wins the prize, and her prize is to remove Pin's face. There are so many characters up for elimination here that I'm just going to speed through it again. Spongy is eliminated, as I don't think that much would change. The teams revert back to their original forms. BFDIA 11 also represents a new stage in the game. With 10 new contestants, that means we need 10 more challenges, which means the next 5 episodes are going to be fabricated by me. All of the extra challenges and prizes will be taken from real BFDIA prize wheels and challenge wheels. That being said, this next challenge will be to go mining for Yoyolite challenge from BFDIA 10. It would essentially just be BFB 13's challenge but with a twist. Whichever team brings back the most Yoyolite from underground wins. The one with the least Yoyolite is up for elimination. 8-Ball would be pretty tired out from the stress of the previous elimination, so he would let Fries run No Name for him. Fries would basically just do his get digging shtick with pen, blocking, and eraser. As for Death Pact, Teardrop is iconically a very strong contestant and would just dig down and get the Yoyolite underground and be able to be safe for her team. Woe Bunch would kill Fanny and put her blades onto the now faceless Pin, turning her into basically just a makeshift drill. There, they would get the Yoyolite for their team, making them safe. As for Free Smart, Match and Pencil were too busy having their break time to go into the mines. Ice Cube kept dying from a pickaxe, and Book and Ruby were too scared to go in the mines, so they're up for elimination. It's time for Cake at Stake, and Free Smart is up for elimination alone for the first time ever. Ruby always wins the prize here, and I think that's still going to be true. Her prize would be the Best Friend prize from BFDIA 8, which means the Puffball speaker box would cover Horrifying Sludge, and let her compete Free Smart team for this episode alone. Now it's time for the elimination. Safe are Ruby, Book, Pencil, Match. Voters did not forget when you removed Pin's face. Ruby would replace Ice Cube with Needle using a swap token that Puffball speaker box revitalizes. This challenge would be the Mine and Craft challenge that was originally on the BFDIA 8 wheel. Now, I feel like this challenge would usually be a two-parter challenge, but since I don't think that BFDIA would do a two-parter this early in the season, instead, I just had the Yoyolite challenge be the mind part and this part be the craft part. Essentially, each team would have to make an invention with the Yoyolite. The team with the lamest invention is up for elimination. Death Pact would make a life-saving machine with the Yoyolite's time-bending properties. Free Smart and Wobunch would just make sculptures out of the Yoyolite since they don't really know how to use it correctly. No Name would make a magnificent invention with the Yoyolite due to tennis ball and golf ball's genius, thus they would be safe. Between the two sculptures made by Free Smart and Wobunch, Wobunch's would be slightly worse, leading them to be up for elimination. I think Coiny would win the prize, just barely over Pin this time, and his prize would be the immunity prize from BFDIA 2. However, this prize wouldn't work like you thought it would. Instead, the contestant getting this prize would be able to award immunity to any other contestants of his choice for as long as he wants. He would choose to sabotage No Name by giving Golf Ball and 8-Ball immunity into the final 16. Anyways, safe are Pin, Coiny, Nickel. Yeah, it's pretty obvious that Fanny would leave here. She's just so mean, and the rest are not hated enough to leave. Now, originally, BFDIA 13 was a non-competition episode. However, since BFDIA 13 laid at the halfway point of the season at the final 11, and this time the midway point is the final 16, I decided to move the non-competition episode to BFDIA 18. Today's challenge would be the Draw a Pretty Bird challenge that originally appeared in BFDIA 15 Spin Wheel after this episode would have came out. Basically, each team just has to draw a pretty bird and the team with the worst bird loses. I know, it's a boring challenge, but this episode will mostly be about plot between the contestants anyway. The first team safe would be Death Pact, as Teardrop and Taco would definitely be able to make the prettiest bird. The next scenes would be Pen, Blocky, and Eraser bonding over how much they miss Snowball. This wouldn't be related to the challenge, but it would be a great plot scene developing all of their characters. Then, the scene after this would show Ruby and Book allowing Needle to help with their bird drawing. This would be a great moment developing each of their friendships. However, in the middle of it, Match and Pencil would come in and snip the paper out of Needle's hand, stopping her from contributing because she's not a full Free Smart member. This would show it to Needle that Free Smart is divided between the unaccepting contestants and the accepting contestants. Since Coiny does not know how to draw, and the rest of his team can't draw due to not having arms, and No Name has too much internal fighting to be able to draw a bird, Puffball's speaker box limits the rest of the challenge to 1 more hour. Coiny would turn Wobunch's drawing in, and it would be rated as worse than Death Pact's, unfortunately for them. However, not all teams have turned in their drawing, so he's not guaranteed up for elimination. Free Smart would turn in their drawing and it would be rated as the best one yet, and the best drawing that's ever been made ever, because Needle contributed to it. The final scene would be Pen, Blocky, and Eraser confronting Fries over why he has been unenthusiastic over the challenges recently. Fries would say that he doesn't like being in a team at all and would rather be a solo. Fries asks why Pen, Blocky, and Eraser have been so loyal to 8-Ball anyway. They would say that that's because they hate the Bossy Bot. Eraser would then see Golf Ball trying to turn in her drawing to Puffball speaker box and would zap it, not knowing that would put them up for elimination. And thus No Name is up for elimination. Tennis Ball would win the prize here, and his prize would be the Yoyal Pie prize from BFDIA 6. First safe are Golf Ball and 8-Ball because they're already immune, obviously. Safe after that are Tennis Ball, Pen, Blocky, Fries, Gelatin, and Rocky. Eraser essentially had to be written out using the self-sabotage thing, because without that, the final 5 would have just been the bros, to be honest. Nickel would switch to No Name because Coiny is so bad at art that he had to leave. BFDIA 14's challenge would be the Ponder Your Own Existence Without Having a Mental Breakdown challenge that was originally in BFDIA 17 Spin Wheel. This episode would be similar to the previous one in that the challenge is mostly not a major part of the episode and instead it's plot-based between the contestants. The rules would go like this. The challenge would continue indefinitely and the first team to have a mental breakdown would be up for elimination. This episode would have scenes for each team, but it would mostly focus on No Name. The most iconic and memorable point in this episode would be Tennis Ball coming up to Golf Ball sulking and asking why she's doing that. Golf Ball would then have a mental breakdown about how 8 Ball is stealing everything that she does in the team, and why she's even there if nobody listens to her, and what her purpose even is, and how 8 Ball destroyed her life. This would cause No Name to lose the challenge for the second time in a row, but it would be a great point in Golf Ball's development. Tennis Ball wins the prize again. I know, how surprising. And he gets the Fabricated Lies and Deceit prize that was originally seen in BFDIA 19. Not exactly sure what that means. Maybe it'll come back in later. Anyways, so far, Golf Ball and 8 Ball obviously again since they still have immunity. Tennis Ball, Pen, Nickel, Blocky, Fries, and Gelatin. Rocky had been surviving over much more loved contestants for a while now, so it was clear that he was going to go here. Nickel would see all of the chaotic infighting on No Name and thus switch to Death Pact instead. In this episode, Spongy would finally come back from the sky that he has been flying through for months now, probably in space or something, and crush Puffball's speaker box. This would cause Flower to take over hosting instead. Because Flower doesn't really care as much about the team dynamic as Puffball's speaker box did, Fries would be allowed to become his own solo team again. 8 Ball would blame both of these losses in contestant count on Golf Ball, which Golf Ball would just sit silently and resentfully about. Flower, being the host, would bring a new, rigged wheel that would eventually land on Beauty Contest. This was originally seen in BFDIA 11. Now, Flower would have an extreme bias to girls, obviously, for this, which means it would be Fries or No Name losing, as they're the only teams with only boys. Between them, Fries can just put random things in his Fries thingy, while No Name doesn't have that luxury, so they're obviously up for elimination for a third time in a row. The most important part of this episode wouldn't be the challenge, it would be the plot, again. Tennis Ball would walk up to 8 Ball and urge him to see how his leadership has been hurting their team. This would cause 8 Ball to suddenly and unexpectedly open up to Tennis Ball. He would speak about his actions not being exactly personal hatred to Golf Ball, but instead him just wanting to be accepted and loved by his team, and how he feels like he wasn't exactly loved on any team he's been, ever. So, 8 Ball basically goes on about him letting his emotions get the better of him and how he's sorry to Golf Ball. Tennis Ball would be extremely confused about why 8 Ball opened up so suddenly, but then it would hit him. His Fabricated Lies and Deceit prize wasn't him getting those things, it was him never getting those things. That's why Golf Ball opened up so suddenly too. They were compelled to tell the truth by Tennis Ball's prize. However, since he now knows the truth about the prize is dissipated and he can't abuse it. I actually think Golf Ball would win the prize this time. I know it might make sense for her to win the prize the previous time, but now that the fans would know how stupid 8 Ball's reasons for abusing Golf Ball were, I feel like Golf Ball would get so much sympathy that she would win the prize over Tennis Ball here. Golf Ball's prize would be a delicious gourmet meal as seen in BFDIA 14. Anyways, Golf Ball and 8 Ball are again first safe because they both already have immunity. Then it would be Tennis Ball, Pen, and Blocky. Gelatin is eliminated due to being annoying and not having any positive qualities since Fiery was eliminated. Since Nickel's taking a tour around all the teams in BFDIA at this point basically, he would just think it's funny to join Free Smart. Flower would try to make the contest a beauty contest again, but it would instead land on Rip Flower's petals off, to Flower's chagrin. During the contest, Tennis Ball would try to relay 8 Ball's statements back to Golf Ball, and Golf Ball would understand but would not forgive 8 Ball just yet and would still need some time to think about it. Meanwhile, the challenge would be close, but Death Pact and Free Smart would end up being tied for the lowest amount of petals ripped off. Thus, they would both be put up for elimination, though only one contestant would be eliminated still. I think it would be close between Ruby and Teardrop, but Ruby would narrowly win the prize, and she would get to turn any other contestant of her choices to a smaller size, and she would pick Pin, because Pin would not respond when she's asked how much she likes Free Smart. Anyways, so far, Taco, Ruby, Book, Nickel, Teardrop, Needle, Pencil, and Matt. Bombi was already super hated by BFDIA 14, and since this is BFDIA 16 in this timeline, I do not see why he would survive at all, even if Matt was hated as well. It's BFDIA 17, and it's time for a new host again. This time it would be the Bugs. The challenge would be bug-filled dodgeball insanity, and the main twist of the episode is that only the team who remains last is safe. All other teams would be up for elimination. Fries and Death Pact would both be out first, and second I guess, because they have so little members that they can't really do anything. Tennis Ball and Golf Ball would try to create an anti-poison to stop them from being put up for elimination. Ruby also gets swapped with all of her sisters this episode. The main events of the episode will be at the end, where Needle denatures the anti-poison that TB and GB made. However, 8-Ball still decides to try to have a heroic sacrifice by jumping in front of Golf Ball to stop her from getting hit. This wouldn't be that effective though, as Golf Ball would just be hit directly after. Coiny would also have a major conversation with Needle at the end, trying to convince her to join back with Wobunch. However, Free Smart demands an active sacrifice to become a full member, so Needle would do this by poisoning Coiny and officially joining Free Smart. Thus, Free Smart is safe and everyone else is up for elimination. The episode would end with Golf Ball and 8-Ball somehow getting recovered, and Golf Ball saying, "At least we tried our best," and then walking away. This would clearly be directed at 8-Ball, though it wouldn't be directly stated that it was. And that's where I'm going to leave this video off. This is taking a very long while to make, and I've hit a stopping point at the non-competition episode of BFDIA 18, so I think it's a perfect time to leave off. Next episode will cover the next episodes all the way up until the final 5, which is where BFDIA is at in our own timeline, and all the arcs that go with that. Yeah, basically everything that happens there. So subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. Obviously remember to like the video, and goodbye guys.